Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to the Valentine's Views podcast for Friday. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts across the Big Blue View Radio Network. All right, as the Giants season ends and our attention turns toward the 2024 NFL Draft, there's nobody better for us to talk to at this time of the year than Senior Bowl Director Jim Nagy. And we welcome Jim to the show now. Jim, thank you very, very much for a few minutes in a really busy time for you.
Yeah, good to see you again, Ed.
Hey, so I'm going to start with a really selfish question that hopefully some of our listeners are interested in, but I always go to the combine. Every year I go to the combine. It's been sort of a tradition for me the last few years. But if I'm only going to go to one event, and I don't want you to throw the combine under the bus, but if I'm only going to go to one event this year, make your pitch for me to go to Mobile. Why that benefits someone like me, and why that benefits the players so much.
I'm not going to throw the combine under the bus. It's a great event. I go every year as well. They do a great job with you guys. They do a great job with the media. I'd say for fans, this is just a more fan-friendly event. Combine's very corporate. The players are really sealed off. You don't get any real access to players at the combine, and we give tons of access here. So you can see these guys at practice. You can be 10 feet from the drills. You can get autographs after practice. We've got a Mardi Gras parade that these guys march in and throw autograph footballs. There's opportunities on game day to meet these players. So, and the whole NFL world is down here. Again, they're not, in the RCA. I guess it's not the RCA Dome anymore. I guess it's Lucas Oil Stadium. But the teams aren't all in a stadium. They're milling around downtown Mobile. It's a small town environment. You get to see these guys. I tell people all the time, if you set up a lawn chair out in front of our Senior Bowl headquarters here on Dolphin Street in Mobile, over the course of the week, you'd see every head coach, every GM walk by, and our players walking around too. So it's just again, for people that do come every year, the media that do come down here, we were stagnant, about 900 media members for a few years. We went up to over 1,100 last year. It's one of those events. If you come once, you're going to come back every year. It's a great place to network. It's a great place to see people. And again, it's real football. It's not the underwear Olympics. It's guys in a really competitive environment, working their tails off. This is to me, this is the biggest job interview these guys are going to have.
Absolutely. Hey, let me ask you, before we get into some of the guys that'll be in your game this year, one of the guys that you really pitched last year was John Michael Schmitz. And the Giants took John Michael Schmitz in the second round. I don't know how closely you've been able to follow, what he's done this year, what the Giants have done this year, but if you can, just some overall thoughts on what John Michael Schmitz has done for the Giants.
Yeah, I can't comment too much. I don't have time, quite frankly. I'm watching all the college tape. So if I can catch a Monday night game or a Thursday night game a little bit here and there, I do. When I am home on a Sunday, I try to watch the Seahawks. That's the last team I worked for. Still got a lot of friends back there. So I don't know too much what John Michaels brought to the Giants. I know that he was a really natural center, and that's why I pushed him. I thought he was a day one center, really natural at the position, had a great head on his shoulders, so he could come in and whatever weight needed to be lifted, in terms of adjusting fronts and helping a quarterback. I knew he was able to do that. So I was excited when they picked him. Hit Joe and Dave's up when they picked him and told him I thought it was a great pick. And I hope he's doing well. I do. I don't have any clue. I haven't watched any NFL tape.
It's been a rough year for the Giants offensive line, but that's not his fault. Been a lot of other circumstances. So let me ask you about this. We talked a little bit about this before we started recording. Big difference in the Senior Bowl this year is that underclassmen are eligible, for the first time. And I'm curious, how is that changing the rosters, and how is that changing, what you guys do and maybe the entire process?
Well, a couple things. I think it's made our process a lot more fluid. Like I was telling you off the air, we used to feel good about our roster in the beginning of December. We felt pretty locked into where we were going to be. And now here we are in the beginning of January, and things are still there's still some moving parts. So you got to wait for these juniors to declare, right? I mean, there's been some back channel conversations through the agent community on these players, but at the end of the day, like, these guys are still trying to decide whether to come out or stay in. And so it's made that more fluid. And then just overall, it's going to, really ramp up the star power of the game. We've been averaging about 40 of the top 40, 41, 42 of the top 100 players over the last 3 or 4 years. I would expect that number to be closer to 70 now. We're locked in on about 25, have commitments from about 25 to 30 juniors, which we'll announce next Tuesday night on the NFL Network when we do our Senior Bowl roster reveal show. So there's some great ones. And again, we're really targeting top 100 juniors. If we're gonna go into the 4th and 5th round for guys, we'll still bring mostly seniors. So again, it's not going to radically change we're still going to be mostly a senior laden game. But these juniors are going to, help the upper level, those top 3 rounds. They're going to help that significantly.
Yeah, it's and just to be clear, the game is February 3rd. Practice is the week before that, and I think the deadline for these underclassmen to declare is what, the 17th of this month?
Yeah, that's right. That's the date.
Okay, so things could be fluid right through then, even though you're going to be announcing some things. You said next week.
Yeah, on Tuesday on the NFL Network. So that'll be
Okay.
Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, myself. We will be unveiling those guys, and then I think the other reveal that night will be the day after the national championship game. We've got commitments from, I think, 6 or 7 Michigan players that they've all asked that we hold off. So we'll be announcing a slew of Michigan guys after that national championship game.
Nice. So it'll be a heavy dose of the top prospects. The day 1 and day 2 guys will be on the field in Alabama for the Senior Bowl then.
Yeah, I would expect us to have 65 to 75 top 100 players in the game.
Nice. It'll be the place to pay attention to. So let me ask you, one of the guys on my staff wanted me to ask you this. There's always, you talk about the top 65, 70, you talk about the Michigan kids, but there's always a couple of small school kids. There's always a couple of guys whose names we really don't know. Of the kids you've got commitments from right now, who would you say, are a couple of kids that are going to take the Senior Bowl by storm and really going to help their draft prospects and their sort of notoriety leading up to the draft?
Yeah, for sure. The small school element has always been a huge part of this game, going back to Michael Strahan when he came out of Texas Southern, and then you take it to the past couple of years with guys like Cody Mauk and Trevor Penning and some of these small school offensive linemen. Cole Strange from Tennessee Chattanooga that went in the first round. So that's always been a big element of the game. And unfortunately, the transfer portal is killing it. Right now we only have, I think, 3 or 4 sub FBS level players in the Senior Bowl. And that's because they're all portaling up. They're not staying at the small school level. They're going up at least for their senior year. So they're coming to Mobile with a big school helmet on when they, a lot of these guys spent, a good chunk of their career at the small school level. So, we had to be really intentional this year with to get some small school guys in the game. Like we have a corner from Virginia State, Willie Drew, Division II player, HBCU player who's really got some ball hawk to him, physical corner. Dylan Laube, the running back from New Hampshire, is a guy that's going to excite a lot of people because he's really good in the passing game. He's a guy that you can put in the slot. He broke the NCAA all-time record this year, had 12 catches for like 200 and almost 300 yards against Central Michigan, whatever it was, 298 yards receiving, something crazy. So there's a coach. Jalix Hunt is an outside linebacker from Houston Christian. So but it's small. That list, unfortunately, is dwindling.
Well, it makes sense because the college football landscape is changing in a lot of ways with the NIL and the portal.
Fast.
And and
It's changing overnight, Ed. I mean,
yeah, and it makes
this thing's totally different than it was even 2 years ago.
yeah, it makes sense that the game and the rosters and the whole process is different as well.
Yeah. Adapt or die, right, Ed? Adapt or
Ex-
die.
exactly, which is why an old guy like me is sitting here doing YouTube videos as it is. So, hey, let me ask you, I want to turn to some positions of interest for the New York Giants. And one of those is quarterback. Uh, we know the Giants have Daniel Jones. We know that Joe Shane has said that when Jones is healthy next year, he's their guy. He's their quarterback one. He's going to be the starter again. But the Giants are in an awkward position. He's got 1 year left on his of guaranteed money. They're going to have a high pick. They could easily, be in the quarterback market for a post Daniel Jones era.
Yep.
And before we even talk about players, I've been studying round one draft picks and trades up and all of that in the quarterback market since 2010. And I think what you would call the success rate, guys that get second contracts, maybe guys who are Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks, the hit rate for quarterbacks in the first round in the NFL since about 2010 is roughly 30 to 35%. And I'm just curious, from your experience in NFL front offices and scouting and all of that, why is it so difficult to match quarterbacks with teams and to hit on this position more often than that?
Well, we could do about a 2-hour show on this topic alone, Ed. I think big picture, there are a couple things. It's such a hard position in that league. I mean, what quarterbacks are being asked to do at the college level is not even close to what they're being asked to do as pros. So there's a real projection element to it. I mean, you watch some of these guys' college tape, and it's just there's no apples to apples at all. It's hard. I tell people all the time when I get asked questions like this, for some of these college guys, you can throw out 85% of the reps they take and really focus on 10 or 15% of the plays where they're under duress. I mean, think about how much Daniel Jones has gotten hit over the last 5 years with the New York Giants. Like you watch some of these college kids tape, they can go entire games without getting knocked down. I mean, it's a chaotic position in the NFL. In college football, there's not a lot of chaos. There's not a lot of pressure. There's not a lot of tight window throws. I mean, so you got to focus on those reps and see what the guys look like in those situations. And again, I don't know if the position's being developed well when they get to the pros. They're getting thrown out there, and I don't think it's good for the position. I think guys. I mean, we're seeing what Jordan Love's doing right now in Green Bay. He had 3 years to sit and learn under Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love's had a great year for the Green Bay Packers. He is their franchise guy. They are going to look like they hit on that draft pick. So. And then we're so far removed from that. We're about 10 years removed from guys coming to the league and actually getting developed. I mean, we're just throwing them out there because the fans want to see them and owners want to see them. And it's not the best thing for the player. And then, with going back to, why teams miss, they miss on the person too. Just dealing with the pressure of the position in the NFL. I mean, you got to be wired a certain way. I mean, that's why from a long distance view, I've admired how Daniel Jones has handled the last 4 or 5 years in New York. I mean, he's taken a ton of criticism. I think a lot of unjust criticism. I think there hasn't been a great supporting cast around Daniel, whether it's offensive line or skill people. And not to say they don't start the year with a good group, but that team, for whatever reason, has been hit with a ton of injuries, it seems like, the last 4 or 5 years on the offensive side of the ball. So, to me, Ed, I mean, long-windedly, those would be the big picture things on why it's hard to hit on these guys.
Absolutely. So many things go into it other than a guy's arm strength and his physical traits and all of that. I want to ask you, obviously you said your rosters are fluid right now. Of the guys you've got commitments from at this point, let's just talk about the quarterback position. I know you've got Bo Nix committed. Who are you excited about at that position right now?
Well, that's a loaded question because I have to say all of them, don't I? And I am. I'm excited about all these guys. We wouldn't have invited them if I didn't think they were draftable players and guys that will play at the next level. So no, I'm excited about that quarterback group for a lot of different reasons, depending on the player. But I'm excited for a guy like Michael Pratt from Tulane for the NFL to really spend some time around this guy because I do think he is wired right. I've been around Michael Pratt enough to know that what this young guy's made of, and you got to look at what they do at the college level. I always put a lot of stock in guys that raise a program. And what Michael Pratt did for that Tulane program over the course of his career, taking them to a Cotton Bowl victory last year over USC and Caleb Williams, and then getting them, they only lost one game this year. He has truly raised the level of that Tulane program. So I'll be excited. He's not a guy that a lot of people are talking about. It's Bo Nix. For our game, it's Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, Joe Milton, guys like that. We added Sam Hartman today. From Notre Dame, we're talking to Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels. So we could have a lot of really, highly visible guys, but not a lot of people are talking about Michael Pratt. And I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback.
So quickly, we're going through a couple positions fairly quickly here because I know that your time is limited, and I'm going to try to get you out of here in a couple of minutes. But wide receiver's another spot where the Giants might be looking for help. They drafted Jalen Hyatt a year ago. They still have Wan'Dale Robinson. They still have Darius Slayton. They've got some nice pieces, but they could use more. Who's the Puka Nacua in this game, or is there one?
Puka was a 5th-round pick last year. So if you would ask me a year ago, and trust me, I love Puka. And I think the reason why, if you want to like figure out like why Puka is really good, he's a really crafty guy that knows how to get open. And he catches everything, and he's super tough. I mean, that's what Puka is. So, just trying to identify guys like that can transition quickly. Crafty guys know how to play. So if you know how to play, then you can get to that level and figure it out and get on the field. That's why Puka, Cooper Kupp gets hurt to start the year. Puka, and then immediately he gained the trust of Matthew Stafford. So I know this wasn't a Puka question, but it's a really good position group for us this year. I mean, Ladd McConkey is a guy we just got committed from Georgia after his bowl game. He is a super crafty guy. You're going to hear comparisons to Cooper Kupp because of the white guy thing. And there's some similarities there for sure. I mean, they're both quick. They're both fast. They both can get open. Malachi Corley is a guy from Western Kentucky, is a guy that does a lot of good things after the catch. Johnny Wilson's a big body guy. If you're looking for something dissimilar to what you guys have right now, you kind of laid out the receiver room. Johnny Wilson from Florida State's a little different with he's got like an 84-inch wingspan. He's, crazy catch radius guy. So the good thing is for these teams, there's a lot of different flavors at wide receiver when they come down here to Mobile to find whatever skill set they want to find.
And you talked a little bit already just about how quarterbacks get hit so much more often in the NFL, and it's been a rough year for the Giants offensive line. How deep is this draft in offensive linemen, and are there a couple of guys that maybe Giants fans should really look at, in your game coming up?
Yeah, it's the deepest group we've had in my 6 years here at the Senior Bowl. I can only speak to that. We've got 7 or 8 guys that I think could be first-round picks. My first year here at the game in 2019, we had 5 first-round offensive linemen. I think we could get to that level or surpass that level this year. Tyler Guyton is a guy that you don't hear a ton about right now. Everything's about Joe Alt from Notre Dame and Olu Fashanu from Penn State. I think Tyler Guyton's got a higher ceiling than both those players, and they're both good players. And I'm not disparaging them at all because they're not playing in the Senior Bowl. And Tyler's probably not where they are right now as players. But in terms of athletic ceiling, I think he can do things that neither of those two guys can do. And then you got like Troy Fatanu at Washington, who we'll see here play in the championship game. He's another guy. But it's a long list. I don't want to leave any of those guys out. I mean, it's a long list. You can go to our website, seniorbowl.com, check out that offensive line group. And again, like I said, I mean, I don't know if we've invited an offensive lineman that's going to get out of the 4th round this year. Most of these guys are all top 100 players.
Nice. Hey, Jim, I know, like I said, I know that you're Your time is kind of limited, so I'm going to let you go. Appreciate the time, and hopefully after the Senior Bowl and before the draft, hopefully we'll get to do this again. So thank you very, very much.
Sounds good, Ed. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Giants fans, thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.